Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Green. In tonight's episode of Tide Talk, I'm joined by Jonathan Sanford from his studio, Tide Talk Studio, Texas, to talk about this new incredible coaching staff that Nick Saban has put together down at the University of Alabama. Nothing official from UA just yet, but it looks like we found our man to replace Karl as our new cornerback coach, and I will let Jonathan tell you all about that. We'll get into tonight's episode of Tide Talk starting right now. All right, before we kick things over to Tide Talk Studios, Texas, and have Jonathan Sanford join us to tell us all about this new coaching staff that Nick Saban has assembled, let's go ahead and start this episode off the same way we usually do. Get in the comment section right now, and I want you to grade this coaching staff as a whole on a scale from A+ being the absolute best to F being the absolute worst. I'll pin this down in the comment section. Can't wait to see what everybody thinks about that. That being said, all wrapped up and done, let's kick things over to Jonathan Sanford at Tide Talk Studios in Texas and let him tell you all about this all-star staff that the greatest of all time, Nick Saban, has assembled at the University of Alabama.
Thank you, Ricky, and once again, welcome everyone to the Alabama Football News and Rumors channel here on Tide Talk Sports. Jonathan Sanford here with you as we break down the newest addition to Nick Saban's coaching staff at the University of Alabama. Now, although not officially announced via the university, it does appear certain that Jay Valai has been tapped to become the next cornerbacks coach for the University of Alabama after the departure of Karl, who you may know left recently to become the defensive backs coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Valai is a Euless, Texas native. Now, keep that in mind. He was a 4-year starter for the Wisconsin Badgers before entering the coaching ranks. He has some time in the SEC as he began his coaching career as a quality control coach for the University of Georgia in 2016 and 17. Continued his work in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2018. Back to the college coaching ranks at Rutgers in 2019. And, of course, Texas last season. Now, after last season, here's where the real whirlwind began for Coach Valai. As back on January 2nd, Tom Herman was fired from his post atop the Longhorns program in Austin. Now, most of the folks I've spoken with expected back then for Valai to be the lone holdover from Tom Herman's staff to Steve Sarkisian's. He was one of the most respected members of Tom Herman's staff. However, he would be released from his duties at Texas, and then shortly thereafter, on January the 20th, he would be announced as the new cornerbacks coach for Dana Holgerson's University of Houston Cougars. But it doesn't end there. On February 11th, Valai would be officially announced after many days on the coaching staff for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then one day later would then be that news would begin to trickle down that Valai would become the next cornerbacks coach for the Crimson Tide. So everyone take a deep breath, right? Because we got to talk about this guy, Jay Valai. What do we know about this coach, and what do we expect from him at the University of Alabama? Now, from my sources, this cornerbacks coaching vacancy at the University of Alabama, the capstone came down to a very tight battle between two individuals. The Houston Cougars defensive coordinator, Doug Belk, and the aforementioned Jay Valai. Now, what I've been told is that an initial offer was given to Doug Belk, but Belk, after giving it some thought, decided to remain with Houston due to a desire to prove himself as a D coordinator. Now, folks, if you've been following Tide Talk Sports or on our website on TideTalkSports.com, you know how, for Saban, he felt it was vital to the success of the Alabama Crimson Tide to continue to recruit the state of Texas at a very high level. Thus, one of the biggest reasons why Belk and Valai were considered for this position. Now, although Valai might not have the recruiting resume as some of the previous hires at the University of Alabama, everybody that I know who is familiar with Valai here in the state of Texas tells me he is a tremendous guy, has tremendous upside as both a recruiter and as well as a coach. So keep that in mind. Now, I'll tell you this, during his time on the 40 acres there at the University of Texas, Valai was credited with landing 5 prospects, including the highly touted J.D. Coffey, Ishmael Ibrahim, both of those in the 2021 class, as well as Jalen Gilbo in the 2022 class. In fact, yesterday, I was around some folks at the University of Houston, and before I'd ever even learned about the potential hire of Valai, one of the individuals I was with walked up and he said, "Hey, you got you a good one." And I thought, "What are you talking about, man? Tell me, what are you speaking of?" And that's how I learned about Valai's addition to the staff here at the University of Alabama. Now, this individual went on to tell me that of all the secondary coaches he's known here within the state of Texas and beyond, Valai is near the top, and that he would fit well with Saban because they both demand guys who play for them to play with proper technique and won't settle for anything less. As Ricky Green always tells you, Nick Saban is playing chess while the rest of college football is playing checkers. Now, I spoke with one of my high school coaching connections up in the Dallas area who shared with me that last year, Valai made this tremendous impression on a few hundred high school coaches in the area when he spoke at the NTFCA convention. Now, if you're not familiar, this is one of the biggest networking opportunities for coaches up in North Texas. And he spoke there and made a tremendous impression on those coaches. In fact, as it was said, he left them, the entire audience, in awe. Now, in his speech, now listen to this, it's very reminiscent of what we've heard from Coach Saban. Valai said that when it comes to playing for him, he said there's going to be a lot of passion, a lot of energy. And as a player, if you're going to play for him, either you're going to match that or you're not. And he says, to me, if you have that pouring inside of you and out of you every day, he says, we'll have no issue as player and coach. You got to love that. You got to love that intensity. Now, at Alabama, Valai will enter a cornerbacks room that returns one starter in Josh Jobe and key reserves from last season. However, folks, he's going to be tasked with replacing a very tremendous All-American Patrick Surtain Jr., who turned pro, as you know, following his junior season. Now, in addition to the players returning from this 2020 team, the Crimson Tide added 5 defensive backs during this past recruiting cycle, including Kool-Aid, JaQuincy McKinstry, and JUCO transfer Kyrie Jackson. Folks, I'm here to tell you, Coach Saban has done a tremendous job in filling the vacancies in this coaching staff from this past season. I mean, think about it for just a moment. For us as folks who follow the University of Alabama, think back when Tua left. Most people said, you know what, it's going to be really tough for Alabama to do better than Tua Tagovailoa. But then there was Mac Jones, right? And then Judy and Ruggs, they turned pro, and most thought, oh, well, there's just no way Alabama can do better than those two. What a duo they were. But then steps up Jalen Waddle and one Smitty, who just did a tremendous job. And then after this season, listen, we lost what? Sark, Flood, Banks, Huff, and Scott. And folks, really, I think it started to cross a lot of people's minds. Are we going to be able to stay at the pace that we've been at the University of Alabama with these coaching vacancies? But folks, I tell you, how many programs out there could do what Nick Saban has done in this offseason with the hiring of guys like O'Brien, Marrone, Valai, Gillespie? Oh, time will tell, really and truly. But you have to say Nick Saban has done a fantastic job in filling those vacancies. You know, I remember what Jonathan Allen said a few years ago about what other places are unable to do. Alabama gets the job done. Now, before we close up shop here, again, want to thank you for joining us here on Tide Talk Sports for today's news and rumors, and that news again on Jay Valai. Now, before we go, one little tidbit that I want to share with you out there this evening. A lot of people have had some questions about Coach Bill O'Brien, the new offensive coordinator for the University of Alabama. But, folks, I'm hearing some great things coming from the capstone, that he's already doing a great job on the recruiting front. And as well, I have heard that he and Doug Marrone are really doing a great job blending their talents well. They're actually, I know this is crazy to say, but they're actually roommates because their families haven't moved to T-Town yet. So they're rooming together. O'Brien has really had a great impact on the players that are already on the team. And if you had any question about O'Brien's ability to blend with the players at Alabama, folks, it's being answered. He's doing a great job. And I've heard that folks, the players are already loving Bill O'Brien. So that's a great bit of news that I wanted to share with you as we close up. Again, thank you for joining us. Jonathan Sanford signing off for Tide Talk Sports.
All right, Jonathan Sanford, man, appreciate you helping me out with this evening's episode of Tide Talk so very much. A class act and a professional. Such a valuable new member of the Tide Talk team. Great to have you on board with us, Jonathan. And you did a fantastic job breaking down all these new coaches at the University of Alabama. Excited about the future, no doubt. Some excellent on-the-field coaches and excellent recruiters as well that Nick Saban has added to his staff down at the capstone. The 2021 season spring camp can't get here quick enough. Hey, if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, I don't know what you're waiting on. We have fully upgraded TideTalkSports.com, some of the best information on the whole of Alabama athletics that you will find anywhere, point blank, period. We want you to help us reach our goal here of having 7,500 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button for me right now. Go check out the all-new TideTalkSports.com. Get in that brand new forum, and we'll see you all over there. I'm Ricky Green for Tide Talk Sports on the Alabama Football News and Rumors channel on YouTube, presented by Chat Sports. We'll see you next time. Roll Tide.